Hello and welcome to episode 1203 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, August 4th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. It's Friday. I fell out of fourth place for the first time in a while, but fourth place isn't that special, so I can get it back. But yeah, I'm in a good spot right now. How you doing?
I'm doing good. You and I were talking. I moved up into second place in my main, and I think I've got enough juice to carry it to the end, especially because the team in front of me, who's a really good team, Matt Modica and Jason Anthony,
Love
they
them.
they are a fantastic team, but they don't have much fab left. I think they got $25
Dang.
for the rest of the season. And my team's on the upswing. My auction team taking a little step back, but I got first place back, and so hopefully Brian Jenner doesn't catch me again. And
You got some tough competitors there with those
yeah,
2 weeks, though. So it's going to be a hell of a 2 months. We are in those dog days here right now. Couldn't agree more with the sign today. It says football sucks because football creep is happening, folks. And of course, both of us play fantasy football. You were writing about fantasy football up until I think like what last year? Are you done with
the
football?
pandemic,
Pandemic was when you
the
stopped
pandemic
football.
hit. I didn't think they'd get a football season in during
Yes,
the pandemic, and so I was like, why am I going to do all this work? And then every year I say, oh, this is the year I'm going to start doing fantasy football analysis again. And every year I go, I don't want to. Like
nah,
I don't want to.
nah. I'm
Baseball's
just,
become year round for us.
That's the thing. It has, and football's had that for a while. Now baseball kind of has that year round effect. And again, we are tongue in cheek. We play fantasy football. We both watch it. We both have favorite teams. But wait your turn. And I know I say that as somebody who does baseball drafts in November. I'm a complete hypocrite. I'm
Yeah,
full of
absolutely.
shit.
I'm doing my first baseball
Yeah,
draft
you're
for
doing a baseball
2024
draft
right now.
right now. We will not stop. In December, we'll be talking baseball. So, again, I'm full of crap on this. I just want football to shove off a little bit longer. I'll get into it in October after the baseball playoffs. But we got lots to talk about. Let's get into it. We got some news notes, a little 3 up, 3 down, and then some week 20 2-steps who might be of interest to you depending on league type. But let's talk about some strong debuts for some players joining their new clubs. Jack Flaherty over in Baltimore said, hey, I'm on this team now. I would rather be good than bad, and had a nice little first outing. I know we already talked about him, so it's not so much of like, well, how do you think he's going to do? Because I think you said that, this park's solid for him. We like him as a pitcher. Do we think that he should be picked up in, say, 10s and 12s, Jack Flaherty?
I think there is a good reason to pick him up in those leagues and kind of stream him, especially at home.
Yeah,
He's probably a team streamer in those leagues at best. I
that
mean,
makes sense.
most encouraging part was the start was at Toronto, so
Yeah,
like
let me give you the numbers real quick. 6 innings, 1 run on 4 hits, 2 walks, 8 Ks, and 19 swinging strikes. One of the best we've seen out of Flaherty this year. And like you said, in Toronto.
yeah. So I mean, it was against a good team though. Toronto's been scuffling a bit, so
Well, so is
yeah,
Flaherty though. So I
yeah.
give him full
The
credit here
two
going
walks,
into
the two
Toronto.
walks. I will take 2 walks in 6 innings any day from
Yep.
Jack Flaherty because walks have been a major issue for him this year. So I don't know, maybe the Orioles saw something, or maybe it's just one good start. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't go overboard, but I think he should be rostered in most 12s and some 10s, kind of moving forward.
I think that's right. And that's right where I'm at with Flaherty too. And he's on a good team, so the win probability is up. So especially if you can afford a little bit of ratio
Mhm.
risk and you just are chasing wins like somebody like myself, he's not available in my 15 teamer, but in that scenario, I think you want to go for it. But other than that, maybe not. Let's talk Michael Lorenzen. Now, there was some concern about where he's going to be going to Philadelphia. He got a nice landing spot in his first game, headed to Miami, and he showed out. 8 innings of 2-run ball for Michael Lorenzen with a walk, 5 Ks, 6 hits, and a homer to Brian De La Cruz. You know what's funny about Brian De La Cruz getting the homer? He was one of just 2 guys in their lineup whose name didn't start with a J. And they had John Birdie pinch hit. They could have put John Birdie in for Luis Ariz. I don't know if they have another J guy they could have put in for De La Cruz, But Jorge Soler, Josh Bell, Jazz Chisholm, Jake Berger, Jesus Sanchez, Joey Wendell, and Jake Stallings. They got a lot of J's in there. I just noticed that. No, it's immaterial to anything, but Lorenzen dominated at Miami. Is this just a great landing spot and a good start here from Lorenzen, or are you changing your tune at all? Because I know that you expressed some concern about heading to Philly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not changing my tune quite yet. It was very encouraging. 38% CSW on the slider was really impressive for Lorenzen. Miami is a good team, and they got better at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great park, you know. I think he may struggle a little bit more when he's at home in Philadelphia, but
Exactly.
so I'm not ready yet to be like, oh, you know, hey, I was wrong. It's Mike Lorenzen's season to finish out. But
I agree.
you know, I also think, you know, you pick your spots with him. So I'm not saying necessarily drop him, especially if you can't trade him. If you're in a league where nobody's buying him, or you're in a league that doesn't allow trades, then I don't think you want to drop him to the waiver wire necessarily.
No, too preemptive to do that, right? Like I share your concerns about Lorenzen leaving Comerica for Philly as his home park, but you can maybe trade in some win potential for that. And again, if you're in the situation where your ratios are strong, but you really are just chasing some dubs, then Lorenzen's actually in a better spot for you with Philly. And again, pitching in Miami is markedly different than going to his home park at Citizens Bank. It's a nice little debut, though. And I just wanted to throw a third one in. This one wasn't yesterday the way those other two were. But Noah Syndergaard, I don't know if we talked about it. He had good results in his first outing with Cleveland. That's the best I can give him. You guys know I'm a big Thor honk. I would try to massage this the best I can. It was 0 strikeouts, 2 walks, but it was 5 1/3, 1 run at Houston. Does it do anything for you?
No.
AL only?
I mean, AL only, anybody with a pulse.
Pulse, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even 15-team leagues, like anything with a pulse at this point, and especially if you've got IL spots, so there's even less in the pool. Like, someone is probably rostering Noah Syndergaard. I'm hoping it's not me, but somebody
might need him because he's getting starts. He's at Tampa Bay next weekend, which is not easy, obviously, but also not the hardest thing going right now, too. I'm not saying I would love to take Thor into there. That's more of a general note about the Rays, where, for example, Gavin Williams, and we'll talk a bit about him later with the two-step, he's going in there, and maybe it's not as scary. But Thor, like I said, as much as I love him, please be careful, y'all. He is not super trustworthy, and the 0 Ks is really what's tamping me down from freaking out over that debut. But it was a nice debut, and I don't want to be super negative about it. Speaking of the Rays, Shane McClanahan to the IL. This feels like the other ones. It really does. Where it's trying to be downplayed. It's the second trip. It's gonna be fine. He'll be back. I don't think so. I'm nervous here, and I know our buddy Jason Collette is not happy. I think he sent us an ominous text that said, "Oh, this is going to end well," with dripping with sarcasm. It's left forearm tightness. Where are you at with McClanahan here? Obviously, you're not going to cut preemptively. That makes no sense. But are you nervous that we've seen the last of Shane McClanahan this fantasy year?
Absolutely, and this would likely mean we don't see him till 2025.
If it's on that level,
yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, that's when it's forearm soreness, right? You just automatically think like, oh, this is Tommy John. And the Tampa Bay Rays now have a better IL rotation than pretty much any other major
most rotations. Yeah.
So like I don't know. This feels like it's the end. And you gotta wonder like why Tampa Bay didn't add another starter at the deadline.
You know why?
Because they're cheap.
They're cheap.
Yeah.
They're cheap and lame, right? Like there is a cutoff point where I get tired of the penny pinching, right? Like it's a cool feat, and I'm not blaming the front office. It's ownership, of course, right? They have to work it within the confines that they're given. But it's absurd, right? Because you got a great chance here, but you know that the rotation is taking on water. And it's not like McClanahan was fully healthy and fully an ace before the deadline, and now this just was sprung on them. He was already in some, had a cloud over him. They should have gotten more than Savali for a contending team.
Listen to this rotation.
By the way, it is 5 guys too, right? It is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
full rotation.
Shane McClanahan, Drew Asmussen, Jeffrey Springs, Shane Boz, and Josh Fleming. Like that
Healthy,
is better.
that's the best rotation in the league.
Yeah, that is the best rotation in the league.
That's
when healthy. Like that's
crazy.
Like it's just.
And now we got Zach Littell pitching, and he actually goes today. So I wrote him up in the SP chart last night. And I'll ask you this question. You want to bring up his profile real quick to see what he's doing. Is this working? Are they pulling another rabbit out of their hat? Zach Littell, a reliever for years, occasional spot starter or open. I don't know if he had any real starts coming into this with Minnesota and San Francisco. Started slowly building up. Last time out, Zach Littell throws 5 innings of 2-run ball at Houston, with 82 pitches. So now he's kind of stretched out. Are we getting another sneaky Jeffrey Springs on our hands here, where this just kind of all of a sudden this works? Zach Littell, what do you think with Tampa Bay?
I don't think so. I mean, I think he can be serviceable.
How dare you doubt them?
Yeah, like no. I mean, there's nothing special about what he's done this year.
He's not missing bats like Springs was. Like, even if you were kind of missing the boat on Springs, the data was there, right? The results were like, this guy is doing some big things. Littell's data is fine. Like I like a 24% K rate, 2% walk, but
he's only got one positive pitch value.
Well, what is it?
His cutter.
His cutter. That's what I thought.
Yeah, but like everything else is negative pitch values, and like it's just not a ton of swing and miss. He gives up around league average and a little bit above league average contact. Like it's.
So we're not super keen on him.
No, I mean he's gonna do in a pinch because that's what they have right this point.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay could get something out of him. Fantasy, we'll wait and see. If he has another big outing tonight, though, I'm going to reassess and kind of see where I'm at with Littell, just because Tampa Bay gets it right so damn often. So we'll see there. Hopefully McClanahan's okay, but I am very nervous. If you have him and you're relying on him, you need to start making plans. And I know you're not going to make plans off the waiver wire to replace McClanahan, but you got to try. You just have to figure out what you can do, because you're probably going to be with him.
Be grateful that you got almost the entire season from him. Like, I mean,
true. You did get a brilliant, 11-2 record, 328 ERA, 329, 118 WHIP, and 121 Ks in 115 innings. But you were banking on more from McClanahan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that will be tough. Maybe you could get this guy, because Minnesota's calling up Dallas Keuchel. He did dominate in his in his AAA stint, I should say. He was just pitching in the minors it was a tune-up, really, to see if he could come to the majors. 32 innings of a 113 ERA with a 125 WHIP. That's right. The WHIP was higher than the ERA, which means that ERA was not, super believable. He's probably running a hot BABIP because it's a 7.9 K and a 3.4 walk rate. I'm not that impressed. Dallas Keuchel, we know he can get on runs and be quality. Is there any league type where you would preemptively jump for this? Is there an AL only where you would ever get on board with a 35-year-old Dallas Keuchel before even seeing him in the majors?
So there is one league I'm going to be putting on some bids on him today, and that is my 30-team league with 100-man roster spots. Yeah, so
that makes sense.
Like, especially because I don't really care. Like, I just need innings to make sure I qualify for the innings minimums each week.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I guess AL only, like I said, anything with a pulse, and it's surprising, but Dallas Keuchel does have a pulse at this point.
A pulse has a baseball point. We're not surprised that he's alive. We're glad he's alive.
I mean, a little. No.
Shut up.
He's got an amazing beard. He's of course
he does, and married to MLB Network's wonderful Kelly Nash.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, a nice pair. I'm a fan of both.
Yeah. So, but I mean, mixed leagues, no.
Can't see it without seeing something from Keuchel. Okay, let's say he comes out and it's a gem the first time. 6 innings, 1 run, 4 Ks, no walks.
I mean, if he does that in his first start, he's home versus Arizona. That's a good team.
Would that do something? Would one start be enough for you to be like, whoa, okay, now 15 teamers maybe? Because Minnesota, look what they've done with their rotation, right? They're not quite on the level of like the Cleveland and the LA and the other teams that we kind of give auto credit to when they do anything with a pitcher. But are they not emerging there with some of the pitchers that they've brought to another level?
Yeah.
So
And I mean, he would get a start in Detroit against the Tigers. So like, I think
back to
he
back, by the way, the following week would also line up for Detroit, depending on if he pitched Thursday or Friday of next week,
I mean, here's the hard part: is
or
we're
Wednesday or
not.
Thursday, excuse me.
Keuchel usually doesn't get many strikeouts. So like, if
True.
you're strikeout seeking, or even if you're win seeking, like
If you're win seeking, I think Minnesota's good. I know they've underperformed where they like they're 2-3 games over 500. I get that that's modest, but when you're picking up guys off the waiver wire, you're picking up guys usually from bad teams. So I think there's win and ratio potential here with Keuchel. I need to see something first. Somebody may preemptively do it, and if they do and it works, hats off to them. I'm not going to jump this before I see something.
No, I'm not either. I just don't think the upside's there to do it.
Exactly. And the downside is still punishing.
Yeah.
Anthony Rizzo's headed to the IL, and Oswaldo Cabrera will return, I think, for his 42nd stint this year. I think he's been on that Edward Olivares train, up and down, up and down, up and down. I really liked Oswaldo Cabrera coming into the year, and it's been a flop. It really has. 205, 266, 308. So definitely a miss there. It's a late round miss. It's one of those where you're like, yeah, I knew there was a gamble, but it has been a miss. And he hasn't really performed in AAA either. And yet, I will still pose the question to you as to whether or not you're interested in Oswaldo Cabrera in deep leagues, because power and speed do drive his game. And he has 6 homers, 8 steals in his 260 plate appearances this year. Any interest in Oswaldo Cabrera?
Probably not. I think at best he's probably like a short side platoon guy with Billy McKinney.
Gross.
Yeah, it is. It is really, really gross. Speaking of guys who I did not think would factor into the 2023 fantasy landscape.
Batting in the middle of the Yankees lineup,
Yeah.
too, Billy McKinney is consistently hitting 5th when he does play. And playing all right, by the way, 110 WRC+. No, I mean, I don't want to say no shade to him, because I literally said gross when you mentioned his name. That's pretty shady in and of itself. But, like, it's just jarring for you to say, oh, yeah, he's got to fight for time with Billy McKinney. But like you said, it's probably going to be some short side work. He can play infield, so he can give guys days off. But if Oswaldo Cabrera is not playing well enough, there's not going to be the impetus to do that. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. Just wanted to see if there was any interest there. I will stick with Oswaldo Cabrera into next year. Like, this is a guy I'm not going to give up on at age 24. I do think this year's been a bit of a flop, though. If he comes up and he starts getting some things going, I can revisit for deep formats. But for now, he doesn't do anything until I see something.
It's at least not a flop that is like crushed you, right? Like, you didn't spend a high draft pick on him, and like you knew when to drop him, right? Like when he got sent down, it was pretty easy to be like, okay, I'm cutting him.
I can move on from this. Exactly. And those players are nice, like when it's easier and you don't have to kind of, do I cut this guy? What do I do? In fact, Rizzo might be one of those guys, right? He's
Rizzo's
underperformed.
definitely one of those guys, yeah.
And so you're like, do I cut this guy?
How has he had concussion symptoms since May, and now he's finally going on the IL? Like,
It's terrifying.
I mean, you know, like, I know a lot of people were like throwing shade at the Yankees specifically, but you would have to think as an organization, especially with how much he was struggling with, he had said something. Like,
you never know with players, though. They keep,
and that's what I mean. I think he must have not said something, because
that's
like,
my thinking.
This completely makes sense now when you look at like how poorly he has played the last few months.
Exactly.
That, hey, there's been something wrong the entire time, and he's been trying to work his way through it. But like, it's just shocking to me in this day and age that a guy who's been dealing with concussion symptoms for over 2 months,
since late May when he collided with Tatis.
May
Rizzo.
28th. I mean, yeah.
I agree with you. So that leads me to think that it was him downplaying.
Yeah.
Like, he's that kind of guy. And I don't say this to dog him. It's sometimes seen as a quality. You know, he's a gamer. You can fights through it. I will say in this instance, that's a negative to me. I wish players were more honest about particularly their brain health, but their body health just in general. I get why the behavior is there, and they don't want to come out and take themselves out and all that. But you got to be smart, especially when it comes to your brain, man. So I hope Rizzo's okay. Definitely rooting for all this to go away and him to get back to who he is. Whether his performance is there or not, I don't care. Just his brain post-concussion syndrome is scary. Let's talk about one more thing here. This isn't a news note, but we started talking about it a little bit offline. I said, let's throw this on the pod and get started here, because we were talking about guys who have been worth it this year with the big dollar bids, and talking about maybe we don't need to be spending 200 plus on guys out of 1,000 because it doesn't work that much. It does work for some guys. Yuri Perez has been excellent. Even with the shutdown, the numbers you got from him are excellent. And then, of course, Elly De La Cruz is the guy that people will go to say, see, this worked. Is Elly De La Cruz a first rounder next year if we take kind of what he's done so far and just kind of extrapolate it out? He has a 773 OPS. So we're not just taking the best of what he did and extrapolating that. We'll say 2 more seasons of this, which is 773 OPS, 7 homers, and 17 steals in 212 plate appearances. So you can kind of double it, right? He's played 48 games. That even builds in some cushion for Elly De La Cruz to miss some games, but just double it. So he'll be 14 and 34 with a 269, 316, 457 in about 400.
They're going to be people who want to triple it. Give him 600 something.
He needs to get. Well, yeah. They would want to triple it as an extrapolation for his projection.
From now, yeah.
What do you think about that? If that's what we end up with, 1434, 269 with good runs and ribbies for Elly, but only 450 plate appearances, would that be enough for you to put the 22-year-old into the first round with a 34% K rate and 6% walk rate?
I think he needs to be in the argument. And I think he will be. Like, I don't, if I
15s only or 10s and 12s as well?
I think 10s and 12s as well.
So he's a single digit pick potentially is what you're saying, possibly.
For some people, he absolutely will be.
Do you agree?
I don't think so. Because, here's the problem. Like, they're outside of, like, one clear example, there haven't been very many first round busts. Like, Trey Turner has been a straight up bust this year.
Yes.
But for the most part, everybody else is at least playing well enough where you'd go, okay, like, he deserves to be in the conversation still. Like, if I bring up the Razzball player rater, Acuna, Ohtani, for sure, bets, right?
Yes.
I think Corbin Carroll jumps into the first round. I think he's got to, right?
100%. I think he's a single digit pick too.
And then you've got
middle infield Mookie.
You've got, let's see, so Acuna, Ohtani, Mookie, Carroll,
4,
Spencer Strider,
5,
Tucker,
6,
Garrett Cole,
7.
I know a lot of people threw a lot of shade at Bobby Witt. He's
15th overall. He's right there. I'll put
then Jose Ramirez, he was 17th overall.
9.
I think people are going to want to put Luis Robert Jr. in there.
10.
And
then nobody else is jumping out to you. I think you're kind of slowing down here, which means.
But is still in the top 25 are Julio Rodriguez.
I was going to say, what about J-Rod, Fernando Tatis,
and Soto? So that gets you to 13.
Mm-hmm.
I think
some might not be in on Soto as a first anymore, and others might not quit Turner as a first. By the way,
I think some people are going to want to put Adolis Garcia in the first round. Like, I think,
insane. Please.
Freddie Freeman deserves to be in the first round,
but he won't be.
He could be. He was.
I'm not dogging him. It'll be like a 14, 15 swing type of thing. I'm not saying that you're wrong, by the way. I'm just saying with first. Well, actually, you know what? I think maybe you're right. He will firmly be in it because you are getting speed, right? He has 14 already, a career high steals. If he's at like 21 with, 30 homers and, of course, his beautiful batting average, tons of runs and ribbies, I don't care that he's 34. I think I'd take him Freddie Freeman in the first round. I agree with you.
I think if we're drafting today, Elly De La Cruz in the first round, and I am open to taking him in the middle towards the back. Like, it's somewhere in the double digits. So, but...
Would you take him or Wander Franco?
I think I'm taking Ellie De La Cruz. I think the fantasy juice is too good.
I'm taking Franco.
I think that's fair.
14 homers, 29 steals. Yeah. It is 29 out of 39. He does lead the league with 10 COTS, so I wonder if there will be any sort of shifting next year where they say, hey, you either got to be smarter or we got to slow you down. But I don't know. This could be just, and it's still a 75% success rate, which is above the average needed to kind of be a net positive. And so a statistical team like the Rays, I don't think will necessarily red light Wander Franco. They might yellow light him a little bit. Maybe I was mixing him up with O'Neill Cruz there.
We didn't even mention Matt Olson, who
if we're gonna talk Freeman, we should at least talk Matty O.
Yeah, and I mean, and shout out to Marcus Semien, who's in the top 15, and even Austin Riley. Like, this is going to be another good year to be
Ozzy
at
Albies
the back end.
Bringing up Houston, Atlanta guys. I don't know why I said Houston. Yeah. So here's the thing. I think Ellie's in the conversation. I don't quite get there myself, but no, outside of maybe taking him like top 5, I'm not going to balk when somebody's clocks Ellie, even if it's at like 8 and it's 15 ranks ahead of where I would personally have him. I'm not gonna go like, oh my god, what a stupid moron here. It's not like they're bumping up. I don't know. Think of somebody who certainly would not like. It's not like they're putting Yuri Perez in the first round, right? Based off of his run. Ellie De La Cruz has the fantasy heat. He's got that great park. So even if he does regress next year in the slash line because those plate skills catch up to him, he can hit 230 and still go 30-35. And right, nobody would be that surprised. So I think he's certainly in the mix for it. If he has a big 2 months down the stretch, then I think he'll definitely be a first rounder. If he continues his cold snap, which he's in right now, then we start talking more second, maybe third, depending on how low it gets. But
is Spencer Strider the number 1 pitcher?
Yeah, him or Cole, they're interchangeable for me. I mean, Cole's just boringly amazing, and Strider is kind of like still the new kid on the block as far as top tier. I have no problem with either, but Strider will be my number 1.
Yeah, I think so as well.
All right, let's play some 3 up, 3 down. We got 3 up pitchers. We got 3 down hitters. Nick Pivetta. Holy Toledo. Raise your hand if you've ever had Nick Pivetta on your team. Oh, every single hand went up. Because we've all had him. So we've all been burned by him at some point, right? Expecting, because when you watch him, you see the nasty stuff. That's why he continues to draw the interest of fantasy folks, because it really only takes one good outing of seeing him to be like, damn, this guy's really, really good. But it usually ends bad. There usually gets the rug pulled out from under you via the home run. But right now, Nick Pivetta is absolutely rolling. It started as a follower, which was absolutely wonderful. Please go back to that. It increases his win probability. But now he's getting some straight up starts, at least in his last outing. So maybe it was just a temporary situation. But if you go back over his last 7 outings, 31 2/3 with 50 Ks, a 2.27 ERA, and a 0.73 whip from Nick Pivetta. What the hell's going on, and how much do you buy this Nick Pivetta surge? Is he arrived? Is this finally here?
I mean, I'm going to go back to even farther. I'm going to go back to the day they put him in the bullpen, which is May 21st.
Okay.
And since then, he's got 48 1/3 pitched, 68 strikeouts, and 48 1/3 with a 2.23 ERA. And
5 homers only.
Yeah. And his whip is 0.79. Like I have zero confidence that this is going to stick around forever.
Zero confidence or
I've been burned too many times. This is
okay.
I mean, this is like your girlfriend that has cheated on you 5 or 6 times, and she's like, but listen, like, I haven't done anything, and I've been really, really good, and like
I'm staying over the night at Kevin's like one time, and you're getting like really mad about it. It's so stupid.
Yeah, like, I mean, I just have been burned too many times. Like,
okay.
And the thing is, I don't think you're going to have to pay much for it. Like, I don't think he, like, depending on, because he's a free agent, right? Like, oh no, he's not.
No, he should be rostered. Where is he in 12s?
Oh, I'm sure he's
in 15s. Pivetta is no longer available.
I'm sure. I'm gonna check our 12-team Yahoo league, and
yeah, he better he better be pretty rostered at Yahoo. Although I don't know, man. I always misjudge 12s and 10s.
Pivetta is rostered in 58% of leagues in Yahoo.
That's it. Okay, listen, I know it's shallower, but that's too low.
Yeah.
I feel like that's too low. He's performing way too well to only be 58%. So I would go out and get him. Although I say that and I see Andrew Abbott is 47%. So
Yeah.
I guess I just consistently underestimate 12. Zach Eflin. Oh, wait, that's started percentage. Never mind. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. I saw Zach Eflin 51%. Go ahead.
Speaking of performing well, I'm crushing you this week in our Yahoo League.
Shut up. I know. Just wait until, I don't know.
I appreciate you laying down for me because I'm
not
fourth in the league.
No, that's the thing. I'm not laying down. No, I'm trying. That's the problem. That's the problem. Is I'm trying very hard. So I got derailed in that league day one. Couldn't change my lineup after the first game or what. Oh, it didn't default to putting a lineup in. So the first week, all my guys were on the bench. My fault for not checking soon enough because I didn't have Yahoo in my rotation. It was my first Yahoo league in a while. But then I'm like, okay, I'll just put them in now. No, you won't. Okay, cool. So I'll get them. And I was like, well, no, nothing started yet. Can you change it? Doesn't even allow you as the commissioner to change it because we asked my opponent, can I put him in? Do you care? They said, no, it's fine. Nothing's happened. Nothing. So, okay, I'll take my 0-10, and I just really haven't recovered since. I've been bad otherwise too, but yeah, just
I would like to point out to you that if you only get one win one category each week rest of the way, you will finish with 69 wins in categories.
Okay, I think maybe I should aim for that then.
I mean, I prefer you don't because, I mean, after this week, you can only take the one category.
You want me to beat other people that you're chasing.
Yeah, I prefer that you would beat other people. Yeah, for sure.
You might be beating me up too badly, though.
Yeah.
And I might never recover from it.
You're definitely not going to recover from this.
I'm not going to financially recover from this. So, Nick Pivetta, are we picking him up in 12s then? Is 58% entirely too low?
He should be picked up in 10s. Like, he should be rostered in every format at this point. I do not trust him. I feel like I will get this like shoved right in my face, and thankfully he's not available in any league that I'm in. But
it's KC next week, by the way. Pivetta.
Oh fuck! I mean, like I could throw 8 innings.
Toronto this weekend, so Saturday Toronto at home, so that's gonna be a challenge. But then even if he gets you with a bump on this one, you get KC next week, so that's pretty nice. Let's talk Luis Medina. On Oakland. Now, he was part of that big Frankie Montas deal, and they have all 3 guys in the rotation there. So they're trying to get their worth out of that deal with Sears, Waldichuk, and now Medina. Sears been pretty solid all year, so credit to him, but Medina's been pitching the best of the trio lately, and he's really been surging. The slider is on another level, and we look up, and all of a sudden, hey, 4 really good July starts for Luis Medina 3 starts and a long relief appearance, 6 innings. And he has a 2.86 ERA with 27 Ks in 22 innings and just over a 1 whip, 105. Are we seeing some development here for Luis Medina? And do you have some interest if you're not wins chasing, right? We've talked about wins chasing with guys like Lorenzen and Flaherty who might hurt your ratios a bit. Do you see some ratio strikeout value from Medina that you can trust with this surge and not worry about the wins? Or is this just a 4-start run that is too difficult to trust for Medina?
I think it's still a full 4-start run. That's a little bit too difficult to trust. I still feel like he doesn't have a great pitch mix in terms of like how much he's using his secondaries. I mean, he's pretty much fastball slider. The park does help, right? Like, I mean, and
always.
And Oakland is gonna let him just kind of go out there and roll, but like I do feel like I think what Nick calls him a Toby. Like I think he's a Toby. Like I think he's
that's a jump though, right? Like he was nowhere near Toby earlier, which by that Toby is referencing The Office, the HR guy Toby Flenderson, where nobody really wanted him around. Like he was kind of the butt of every joke or whatever. But you kind of had to have him, right? Because he was the HR guy. So it's like you just kind of go with it and deal with it. So like Medina, if you put him on your roster, you're not expecting him to be amazing. You specifically, Justin, kind of might see Nick Pivetta as a little bit of a Toby right now, where you don't really trust it. You're kind of nervous, but you got to be around. You got to have him in the office right now because he's just been.
No, they might actually be what I think Nick calls a cherry bomb. I need a pitcherless glossary.
There is one.
I know. I'm just not going to look it up, but I think
I agree.
Actually
cherry
bomb.
Explain that.
So it's a guy who can be really sweet, but also can blow the hell up out of your ratios. So,
Pivetta is definitely a cherry bomb more than a Toby.
And I think Medina is too. Like and so I think there's definitely some risk, but I also think he should be rostered right now. Like it's 4 good starts, and 2 of them were against pretty good offense in Boston
but the other was at Colorado too. So I would say all 4 have merit. Yeah. 2 against Boston, 1 against Houston, and then a trip to Colorado. So that's a really good run for Luis Medina. Being that he's a cherry bomb though, with like negative win potential, I know he won 1 of the starts. Is it worth it then?
If you need strikeouts, yes.
Okay.
I think it really depends on what you're. Yeah, I think it depends. This is the time of year where we ignore flaws for what we need.
If it fits our need, we can absorb things that might normally push us away in May.
Yeah. So, I do think that he is at least a viable streamer in 10s and 12s, and a team streamer in 15s.
Okay, I think that's fair with Luis Medina. And we kind of already trumped my third guy. It was Spencer Strider, and you're like, well, what are you bringing up Spencer Strider for? I was going to ask about if he was the number 1 pitcher in first round. Honestly, I didn't know the Ellie De La Cruz combo would take us over to Strider, so we can kind of move on. Also, did you notice what I did with 3 up and 3 down?
I did not.
Well, you'll notice here in a moment, right? So we'll go to the hitters.
I will say, though, I think Strider is in the conversation for first overall pick next year.
I think so, too. Yeah. And I think he's a consistent top 5. He should be.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So we will say that. So we don't need to say too much on him because we did talk a little bit about him in that first round combo. But he is part of 3 up. He's absolutely killing it lately. He's been killing it all year.
I just
got
it. You did.
Okay,
yeah,
so that's why I kind of fit him in there. But I did have a topic ready.
And why you fit this next guy in, because this guy doesn't deserve to be talked about.
Because he's never been up. So, but 3 down.
Well, and he got sent down to the minor leagues.
Oh, okay, so that even better. But we can talk about his future prospects here. He's 3 down because he got sent all the way down. Nick Gonzales didn't do well up. 66 WRC plus with a 28% K rate, 4% walk, 2 homers, no steals, and now sent out for the 24-year-old. Former first-round pick, remember, killed it at like New Mexico or New Mexico State, really took advantage of friendly environment and boosted his stock, was the number 7 overall pick. I don't want to make too much out of 112 plate appearances, but where do you currently stand on him now after a failed first attempt at the major leagues? Is he somebody, Nick Gonzales, in Dynasty that you're interested in?
No, not really. I mean, I think a lot of people's opinion on him for Dynasty is based on where he was drafted
100%.
in the MLB draft. And we have to remember that I'm pretty sure that was a 2020 draft where like they didn't get to see players and evaluate players in the same way that they normally would. And it was a lot of dart throwing. And I think this is a dart that it kind of missed. Now, I think he'll be a role player on a major league team on the Pirates. Like he'll probably be a utility guy for them, but like I don't think he's fantasy viable.
This guy was sent out too. Again, I'm just trying to fit a theme here. Luis García is our next guy for the Washington Nationals. Now, we have had some interest in him on this show in past years, and I felt like he was doing some things this year that were kind of encouraging with the improved strikeout rate, but it really wasn't translating to any results. 259, 293, 362 slash with 6 homers, 8 steals. There's a little something there in 407 plate appearances, but obviously not enough to even hold his roster spot with the Nats. What is the future outlook of Luis García?
I didn't know they sent him down. Wow, that's really surprising.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I mean, because like, you know, his stat line didn't light the world on fire, but it wasn't bad. Like it's
and again, there were skill improvements with the K with the K dip. He was down. Luis García was down 10 points in strikeout rate, down to 13%.
12.5% strikeout rate. Like
and sliced the swinging strike rate in half too to like back up that this had some legitimacy to it. Is a 7% homer to fly ball and a 280 BABIP. I think if those normalized, this line would be close to league average. So I'm really surprised they sent the 23-year-old down. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me, especially after they traded they traded Candelario out. Like, what's he going to learn at AAA? What's the point?
Yeah, I'm really surprised by this move. I know that it's been a really bad month, and it has been. Like,
yeah, that's why he's on 3 down in the first place. But still,
like, who are they starting? It's Jeter Downs.
They claimed Jeter Downs, and they claimed Jeter Downs off a waiver. So I guess that's basically what it was for, was to take a shot on Jeter Downs.
Well, I know. I mean, they claimed Jeter Downs back in.
Oh, that was in 2022. I'm sorry. So they called him up. So they just made the move, the switch of
like,
them. They
does Chavez need to be on this roster? Like,
no, 28-year-old doing jack all. He's doing nothing.
This is a mind-bogglingly weird move.
This might be one where we don't have enough information.
Yeah,
they might have
be
something
else. Yeah,
that they're sending him down to work on, or they're working with him internally, and he needs this to clear his head. Well, I don't know. But on paper, on its face, it's hard to make sense of Luis García being sent down for the Nats.
He's been a boringly fine guy, and he's hitting 307 versus right-handed pitching this year. Oh, no, sorry, that's right-handed away. 209 right-handed home. That's weird.
That is weird, and that's definitely a struggle. But again, making the better contact. 74 WRC plus isn't great. He was a 93 last year. I really think you just let him play out the string, though, and see what's up with Luis García. Are you interested in him in dynasties? Now could be a time to buy low for, literally nothing. But is there any interest in the 23-year-old?
I just don't know there's enough fancy juice where he is relevant for the most part. Like, I think he's a guy. Like, I think he's like, Jonathan Scope-ish, right? Like, yeah. He's never, like, he's a good glue guy when he's playing every day, but, like, he's never a guy that you're going to go, this is going to help me win a league in 2 years or in a year.
That's totally fair.
Those kind of guys I don't care about. Like, they're interchangeable off my roster. You're always going to find a Jonathan Scope.
Yeah, and I think you can find a Luis García as well. 8 for 12 on the bases, 6 homers, nothing really popping off there. And then our last guy on 3 down, a little bit more relevant to all leagues, is Spencer Steer. And I wonder if people figured out the pattern there yet. It was Nick, Luis, and Spencer for the 3 up, 3 down. So a little gimmicky on the hitters there. But those 2 minor leaguers did have had fantasy heat as prospects. So I did think that they were still worth talking about, even though I didn't know Nick Gonzales was sent out. You didn't know Luis García. So we each had one there that we were unaware that they'd been sent out. But Spencer Steer is fully in the majors. He's awesome. He's having a breakout year, but he did have a rough July. Was it just, hey, he was going to have a bad month and this was it? Or are you seeing something, phrase in his profile that make you worried about Spencer Steer at all after a 614 OPS and just 2 homers in July? Where do you stand with him currently?
I mean, I think this is part of just like natural regression, right? Like, he had been running pretty darn hot, on a really good team in a really good park. There's not much in the profile that tells me like this is going to last forever. Like, I think he's going to be fine. He's still, even during this time, he's making league average contact. He hits the ball hard. His swing strike rate's under 10%. Like, I think he's going to be fine. The only issue becomes, if he doesn't pull out of this before Jonathan India returns, he may be out of a job.
No.
What do you mean no? This is a loaded
They're not going to not play him.
I'm just saying, like, he's not going to play every day. He might platoon with, like, Jake Fraley.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
How interesting does that become?
It's not, but how good is Jonathan India? He's a 98 OPS plus. Why do I got to play him over Spencer Steer, who still has a 117 OPS plus despite his cool down month? And worth noting, he is kind of coming out of it a little bit lately with his last few games, but I don't want to freak out over 3 games and 4 hits or whatever it is, a couple doubles and a homer against the Cubs. But I think the first thing you said, where it's just kind of smoothing out a little bit. He rode hot for 2 months. Spencer Steer did. I think this is kind of a come down month in July. I expect him to be fine the rest of the way. I agree. His profile doesn't jump off the page. He's not red all over the place on Statcast, but that doesn't mean that he's not still good, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think
And playing in that park helped.
that's exactly my next
park
point.
for power this year. Even a mediocre guy, and I think Spencer Steer is a mediocre guy.
Yeah.
But in a great park makes you that's a pretty darn good guy.
Solid average guy in a great park is somebody I want on my team because they're going to be undervalued. Now we'll see how it goes next year. Spencer Steer was off the radar this year. Depending on how he finishes, he could be overdrafted next year too. So we got to be careful with that.
I
really like
steals out of nowhere is crazy.
That's awesome. 9 out of 11. That's super helpful there. If he ends up with like 13, 14 with 20 homers and a 270 average with good runs and ribbies, there's going to be a lot of intrigue in Spencer Steer. Going to be 26 next year. So I'm not worried. I'm not benching him, nothing. I'm riding through the cold streak, and I think he'll be fine. Let's do some week 22 starts to see where you're at with some of these guys, depending on league type. Let's start with Grayson Rodriguez, who has looked pretty nice since his recall. He was great in AAA after getting sent out, so he didn't go down there and gripe and stamp his feet about getting sent out. He worked on whatever he was tasked to work on, and has brought that back to the majors, it looks like, because he's pitching very well. And the schedule has not been kind. Dodgers, Rays, Yankees, Toronto. The Yankees are the easiest out of that. I think that was still pre-Judge's return, but he has a 3.57 ERA with 20 Ks, 8 walks, and 22 and 2/3, for Grayson Rodriguez. Are you back in on Rodriguez for shallow leagues this year, and what is his long-term outlook for you right now? Are you excited about where the future is going for Grayson Rodriguez?
Yeah, I think I am. I'd like to see a few.
You are
more...
adding him?
Yeah,
or excited about the future? Sorry, I gave you two questions
both.
there.
Both.
Okay.
I think I'm excited about the future. If he's available anywhere, I'm adding him.
54% at Yahoo.
Wow, that's insane.
I just think that
so many dead leagues. It's got to be like.
That's a big part too, and I guess they require 2 RPs in there, so it's 2 SP, 2 RP, and then 4 opens. I guess we just still overrate how many guys are going to be, because some of these numbers are just eye-poppingly low to me. Like including
3.57 ERA and a 101 WHIP since his return against good competition. Like I said, I'd like to see a little bit. A few more strikeouts, but
for sure,
like you've got to love what he's been doing, and the schedule is not going to be this tough necessarily the rest of the way. So, no. I think he is a guy that I'll be really interested to see where he goes in like early ADPs. Like, is he a guy that like is pushed up into like the Shane McClanahan tier where we saw not coming into this season, but last year, like that just outside of that top 100 picks, because I think that's too rich for me.
I could see that if Rodriguez finishes strong, though, for sure.
Yeah,
he gets Houston and at Seattle next week. I forgot to mention that, by the way. I'm using him everywhere.
I think I would too. The Houston one's scary, but like we said, like he has done a really good job even against tough competition these last 4 starts. So I think you have to roll with him.
I agree. I'm sticking with Grayson Rodriguez. Kutter Crawford gets KC and Detroit at home. That's a beautiful setup with those 2 teams coming to visit. I would almost prefer them on the road with those 2 venues, but I'll take them at home with Kutter Crawford. I like what he's done this year. I'm definitely interested. 15s is an automatic. What about 12s and 10s with Kutter Crawford? Where do you stand with him currently?
I think you're starting him everywhere right now.
I think so too.
He's been too good, and Kansas City is, just the easiest team to stream against right now. So, he was my streaming pick, 2 nights ago, versus Seattle. Went 5 innings, struck out 5, didn't allow any runs.
Very nice.
Made my is hopefully August redeems my streaming record.
Did you have a rough July?
I had a rough June and rough July.
Oh, damn.
I had a 5.47 ERA in June and a 5.33 ERA.
Streaming's been tough this year. I don't envy you having to pick a streamer every day.
Three streams in August, and it's a 1.37 ERA with
we're turning this boat around.
Yeah, so let's keep it going. It can all get blown up in an instant, though.
Would you prioritize Kutter Crawford over Grayson Rodriguez in the 10s and 12s where he's available? Where both are available, I should say.
I mean, I would want both, but
I would too.
If I had to choose one because my pitching is loaded and there's just not someone to drop, then I think I go Crawford.
I got to go Crawford for the matchups in a one-on-one this week situation. Give me KC Detroit.
This week for sure. I'm going Crawford.
Yeah. Rest of the season, I think it is more of a coin flip.
Yeah,
and I
think you can make the argument rest of the season it's Rodriguez because he pitches.
You can exactly. I think that there is the case for that 100%. I could have put this guy on 3 down, to be honest, except I went with hitters because Mitch Keller, oh my God. And I think it's going to be an automatic no to start him because the first name I'm going to say is Atlanta.
And the second one is Cincinnati. So
it ain't much better there with Cincinnati. But I do want to talk about him. So we're saying no for next week, specifically in the leagues where he's available. I'm not trying to pick up Mitch Keller. What about where you already have him? Like, he was okay his last start. 5 2/3, 2 runs, 8 Ks against Philly. That's not a terrible outing. But the 2 before that were really rough. 14 earned in 11 innings, and then 7 innings of 1 hit ball at Arizona, but then clocked by the Dodgers before that. So you take July as a whole for Mitch Keller, and it's a 6.28 ERA with a great start, a good one, and 3 duds. The velo's been down. The homers have been up. Is this a wall for Mitch Keller that he's hitting and he can play through it? Or are we concerned that our all-star Mitch Keller is fading down the stretch and going to undo all the good work he's done this year?
He's allowing so much zone contact, just so much zone contact that you got to wonder with his history if something's wrong, like if he's hurt or something.
I hope not.
I hope not too. But I mean, he's had reoccurring back issues throughout his career. That date back all the way into the minor leagues. And we're now getting to a point where he's starting to throw more innings than I think he's ever thrown, right? 133 right now is
he threw like 150 last year?
159 last year.
Okay.
So may just be tiring out a little bit, but
it's dog days for a reason, right? In August.
Yeah. I mean, he does pitch in the best park in baseball. To pitch in, at least for power. So
both are at home next week. Is there any world?
No, there's no world I'm starting him. Like, even NL only, I'm very skeptical. Like, you probably have to in NL only, but like I don't want to.
What if you're pure chasing? You're in 7th or 8th. It's a long shot. Is this the kind of guy you would take a shot on Mitch Keller with Atlanta and Cincy, or are you looking even deeper on our list with some of these names? Like, let's say it's a 12, so a lot of these guys are available. Are you picking up all these guys behind him that we're about to talk about, or would you take your shot on Keller? Because you mentioned it's at home. He does excel there. 3.57 ERA, 1.11 WHIP compared to 4.33, 1.30 on the road.
I think there's a lot of names on this list I would start over him.
Okay.
Not everyone, though.
You can identify those as we continue. Let's go to our boy Dane Dunning. He's taking the little Bay Area 2-step there. You can go visit him. He's going to at Oakland and at San Francisco next week. That's not too bad. We know he gets it done a little bit more unorthodoxly. That's not the right way to say it. In an unorthodox fashion, because he just doesn't miss bats, right? That's really what it is. Anytime somebody doesn't really miss
it. He struck out 11
I was going
White
to point
Sox.
out that he struck out 11 White Sox in a huge revenge game. But I think that doubled his season total in strikeouts because my man just does not miss bats. Joking aside, he had 13 in his previous 4 starts and then 11 against the White Sox. Great outing. Great outing. I do not want to besmirch this wonderful outing, but that is not a major part of his game, and yet he's 9-4 with a 3.14 ERA and a 1.14 WHIP. Dane Dunning, what are we doing with him at Oakland and at San Francisco, specifically in shallower formats, because in 15s I think he's rostered and being run.
You know what the funny thing is he has 4 starts in which he has struck out he's got 5 starts where he struck out 5 or more. And 4 of those starts he was going up against the AL Central.
Love it. So a bunch of Detroit, KC, and White Sox there. Love it.
Yeah, he got KC once, Detroit twice, and the White Sox. So
Oakland might be able to help that. I know they're not in the Central, but that could help. I think it's
I
a
mean,
good
I
two-step.
think you're starting him. Like,
Yeah.
you
Are you
know,
picking him up, though, like in 10s or 12s? Are you taking the
sure,
shot here?
sure. I mean, especially if you need ratio help or win help. I mean, he should go deep enough to qualify for a win. The Rangers just got García back. That offense is still rolling. Um, both parks are good parks to pitch in. So,
Yeah.
like, I think you have to, like, and you're like, San Francisco can be sneaky with the bats, but
Sure.
it's not a lineup you're super worried about necessarily.
Yeah, you don't have to completely run away from San Francisco, especially the way they've been playing lately. Like they've been good, they can get you, but I think Dane Dunning with the at Oakland is definitely enough to go
Yeah.
for in something as shallow as even 10s, depending on who else is available. Gavin Williams, the rookie for Cleveland, has a 3.38 ERA and 1.34 WHIP on the year with plenty of highs, some lows, and hasn't really been destroyed at any point. I can't recall off the top of my head. Yeah, he hasn't even given up more than 4 in any outing, so he hasn't been destroyed at all. But it's been a bit wobbly of late with 4 walks in 3 of his last 4. Good for an 18 strikeout, 14 walk ratio in the last 18 innings. So it's been a little bumpy. And he gets a visit from Toronto and then he goes to Tampa Bay. Are you going for Gavin Williams anywhere? And I'll include 15s here because I don't think this is a lock in 15. So let's run the gamut.
I know the results aren't like blowing your mind or anything, but Gavin Williams looked the best he has all season in his last start.
Yes.
He did really, really good job mixing pitches, and the stuff was really, really sharp. I know that he walked too many guys, but like at the end of the day, like it didn't really hurt him that bad. He went 5 innings against Houston and got 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts. I think this is the beginning of a Gavin Williams run. I really do. So I would start him over Mitch Keller, even with the tough 2-step.
Yeah.
I am if he's a guy that people drop, like I'm picking him up, like I'm swooping him.
I think you'll find some availability on Gavin Williams. You could definitely get there. By the way, I should point out in those 4 starts, he has a 2.50 ERA despite the 14 walks.
Yeah.
So as Justin was highlighting, he's worked around it. And I wonder if there's some of that like almost intentional walks where he's like, I'm not going to give in here. We talk about this concept a lot. I'm still going to throw my slider that I'm going to try to get you to chase. If you take it, I'll walk you and I'll go to the next guy because it doesn't strike me as he has no idea where the ball's going type of guy for Gavin Williams. So I really like him. I love him for the future, especially. But I'm with you. I would start him over Mitch Keller here, and I'm interested in picking him up for a stretch run.
Agreed.
Our boy, we talked him up. We said if he has a big outing, price is going to go high during the trade episode. Cole Ragans with KC went ahead and put up that big outing that we talked about, which, hey, I'm happy about. I do like Cole Ragans. I'm rooting for him. But that price is going way up because now he has a 2-step as well after putting up 6 scoreless on 7 hits and a walk with 8 Ks against the Mets. He gets a trip to Boston to face Kutter Crawford and then a visit from St. Louis. What do we think of our boy Cole Ragans now that the price is going to be elevated?
Oh man, this is going to be brutal because I could really use Cole Ragans on a 2-step this week in my main event, and I don't know how much to spend. I really, really don't, especially when you only have got like $68 left. So, man, he's looked great. Like and now he pitches in one of the best parks in baseball on a team that should give him run rest of the way so they can see what he is worth coming into next season. I like Cole Ragans much better than Mitch Keller this week, but I think you can honestly put
what about rest
him,
of the season?
I think rest of the season. I think you put him up against anybody on this list that we're talking about right now, and
That's kind of what I was thinking.
I think he's a dude that people should be, obviously be smart about your bids because you want to leave yourself money for the last month of the season. But like this is a guy that I think people should be aggressive.
And the win potential's low.
It is, yeah.
Like you can be aggressive, but if you need wins,
a great park in a great division
wonderful.
To pitch in,
Yep.
and he's got velo and the command has looked pretty darn good. So I'm very, very excited to see what he does rest of the way.
And Cole Ragans might skate under the radar in a lot of leagues. I think in the NFBC circle, he's going to be one of the hotter pickups.
In the leagues that we're in, he's not going to skate. But I think in your 12-team Yahoos and your 12-team ESPNs and things like that, like, yeah, I don't think he's a guy people are going to be flocking the waiver wire on. So
no, but based on these roster rates of guys who we deem better than him, if those are that low, then Ragans is probably a single-digit rate, so you can go ahead and get him. And I have some love for Cole Ragans in a 12-team with this two-step. I would pick him up, take a shot, see where it goes.
Cole Ragans is 1% rostered.
1%.
And that is plus 1% over the last week.
So he wasn't rostered. Somebody picked him up after.
Which makes sense. He was in the minors and stuff. Of course. But, that should be a little bit higher.
I think it's going to only be like 7% next week. Yeah, I don't think it's going to soar. So Cole Ragans, keep him on your list. Take a look at him. AL only, deep leagues, he's really going to be somebody who could be a game changer. Shallow leagues, you're just going for the two-step right now, and then you reassess after this. Brandon Williamson in Cincinnati, he's been up and down. We know that walks were a big issue early on. I don't want to say he's gotten over that, in fact, because he walked 4 Dodgers, but it hasn't been as prominent of an issue, I would say, over like his last 10 starts. Last 9, it's 16 walks, good for a 9% rate, which is still above average, or worse than average, I should say, a higher rate than average, but workable for Brandon Williamson. But is there enough juice to go with it? Like, he doesn't miss bats consistently enough. He doesn't always go 5 innings. He gets Miami and a trip to Pittsburgh. He has, the Cincinnati offense backing him. Any love for Brandon Williamson?
No.
Not even in 15?
I mean, 15's, yeah, like, I think you're probably...
Because he'll be available there.
Yeah, I think you're probably taking the gamble. But, like, this is a gamble that can go extremely wrong because he does walk so many guys and he has propensity to give up home runs. I just think there's so much risk, especially if you are trying to repair ratios or keep strong ratios. Like, I just think so much can go wrong here.
Totally agree, and I'd be very, 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 very careful here. I might even pick one of these next 3 guys ahead of him, although they share similar concerns. So maybe we can figure out what we want to do with these 4. Washington, they got both their guys that we've talked about throughout the year, Josiah Gray and MacKenzie Gore, on an at Philly, home to Oakland 2-step next week. They've both kind of given back a lot of the goodness that they delivered this year, especially Gore. I think Gray, we're still seeing some nice development from with that home run rate at 1.1. That's just such a great improvement over the 2.4 rate that he brought into this year.
That is improvement, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a hell of an improvement. I'd love to see it below 1, but I can live with 1.1. He has a 3.54 ERA, but a 1.43 WHIP. Meanwhile, MacKenzie Gore just kind of looks like he did last year at this point. 4.34 ERA, 1.42 WHIP. Both are a bit improved from last year, but not so much that you're like, wow, this has been a big step forward for Gore. So bottom line is, they started strong. They've both kind of come back to the pack a bit. Gore more so than Gray. Are you starting either at Philly and Oakland, at Philly home to Oakland, and if so, where?
I think I'm definitely starting both.
Okay, 15s?
15s and 12s.
Okay.
Philadelphia's not been great against left-handed pitching. And so I think Gore and Oakland's been atrocious against right-handed and left-handed. Yeah. Against
underhanded pitching. Yeah.
All the pitching. I think I'm starting both. I mean, obviously, Philadelphia is a lot more scary than Oakland. I think the strength of Oakland, the strength of how good it is to stream against Oakland, means that you should probably start both for both in weekly leagues. I would start both over Keller.
Yeah, that was my next question. Okay, so you're just really down on and Atlanta Cincy again. I totally understand it with Keller, and he's been struggling.
If this was Philadelphia, Oakland for Keller, I think we'd have a better conversation. But the matchups are just too strong against.
Totally agree. And speaking of strong matchups being a deterrent mixed with poor performance, I'm less interested in whether or not you're starting Brandon Pfaadt, because I think that's a firm no everywhere, and more interested in where you stand on him after 8 starts in the majors. Have gone very poorly for him with an 8.20 ERA, 1.63 WHIP. This was a guy a lot of us in the industry, myself very much included, I think you liked him. I don't want to speak for you, though. I loved Pfaadt coming in. It's been a total flop. Where do you stand after 8 bad starts? I assume you're passing against the Dodgers in San Diego at home. You can let me know if there is something to the contrary there. But what do you think of Pfaadt?
I am passing against the Dodgers and the Padres, which is the two lineups that I think are too risky, especially for a guy who's homer prone. But I want to say I was very impressed with his start yesterday. He was really, really good against my Giants, and now it is my Giants, and so like
sure,
but my Giants
been good against anybody. So
yeah, exactly.
I'll take anything.
He was really, really impressive. I want to say the slider had like a 38% whiff rate.
Damn.
And while he did give up a home run, he only gave up the solo shot, and he only walked 2 guys the entire outing. And so, like, you know,
only one walk.
Oh, okay.
2 hits, 1 walk.
So I was very, very impressed. I'm pretty sure I wrote about him in the write-up last night. I was writing at like 2 o'clock in the morning, so like
zombieing through it.
I can't remember what I wrote about. Yeah, he was super, super impressive. So this is a really good sign of things to come, and I think he should be picked up for sure in 15s and some 12s just as a stash. Like, you know, Arizona's got a good park to pitch in. There's some beatable teams in this division.
Yeah, I can totally get behind all of that with Pfaadt, because I'm not going to quit him, especially going into next year. This is not somebody that I'm going to be totally out on. Like I said, I love this guy coming into the year. I can't just jump off completely. Not starting this, but yeah, pick him up and then, you know, see if there's room for him down the line with Brandon Pfaadt, because he is 1 out away from 3 straight quality starts. 5 2/3, 3 earned against Seattle, 6 innings, 3 earned at Cincinnati, and then the gem yesterday against San Francisco. So that's 3 decent starts. I did allow 3 solos in the Cincy outing, so it was like, oh man, 6 innings, 3 runs, but it was all solos, but at least no walks. 1 walk yesterday and 1 walk against Seattle. So we are seeing some baby steps forward from Brandon Pfaadt. I'm sticking with him long term, but short term, you do not need to pick him up for Los Angeles and San Diego.
And the hard part is his next 2 starts look like they line up again at San Diego and then home versus Texas. So maybe he's not a stash.
Maybe, yeah.
Now we're getting into like the end of August before you could potentially even use him. So
watch list him.
Watch list, yeah.
Watch list him, and then if he does something against the Dodgers, then maybe you pick up some interest. But for now, just watch list him. You don't need to use a roster spot. Okay, so Gray and MacKenzie were over Keller. Ragans was over Keller. Williams was over Keller. Was Williamson over Keller? Miami and at Pitt. They face each other probably. Okay, so Keller over Williamson. Crawford and Rodriguez were the top guys overall.
Yeah.
Crawford, Rodriguez, Dunning, and Ragans, are those our 4 favorites?
Yeah.
I think so too. All right, great. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up there for episode 1203. What you got going on this weekend? You and Jason going to get on the horn?
I believe we are getting on the horn, and I may actually be bringing in a guest as well. So
lovely.
It should be a good little week of fab. It's grinding season. Time to get going and picking up those streamers and guys to kind of get you through the end of the year.
There's going to be those game changers that are going to win people leagues. We don't know exactly who they are yet. Do your research. Find out. Is it going to be a Samad Taylor? You know, he's got 3 steals this week. Is he going to be John Birdie for a couple months now that Nicky Lopez is gone? I don't know. You know, one of these pitchers, Cole Ragans. I know I'm using 2 guys from the Royals. Is he going to be your big pitcher down the stretch? But you're right. It's grinding time. Do not take your foot off the gas. Even if you're in 8th, if the points are there, do an honest assessment. But if the points are there, you can climb from the depths, even with just 2 months left, because teams can come back to you too. So stay grinding. Unless you're in my league, feel free to take off the rest of the year. Anyway, Justin, I'll talk to you on Monday. Have a good one.
Take it easy.